If you don't like the work that you do, then I hope that this video will help you out. I want you to understand that you don't need to do it all at once. If you get an idea for a career direction to go in or a side hustle to start, you don't have to know all of the steps all at once. You just need to know the first step, which is always something extremely simple. You spend 50% of your time being awake at work. If you're working a 9 to 5, you go to bed at 11 p.m., get up at 7 a.m. For many of us, we think about that work that we don't want to be doing, even when we're not doing it, for at least 1 to 3 hours every day. And beyond that, maybe you're bombarded with email notifications or text messages from that very place that you don't want to be. You're having your own free time in your personal life, and you're still being reminded about the work that's waiting for you tomorrow. Because this is just how it is now. We are more available than ever before, and we keep ourselves available to even the people that we don't want to be available to. Maybe you feel like you're in this paradigm that you didn't choose and you're becoming some sort of victim of circumstance, but you have to remember that you did choose this. Even if it was 3 years ago and you said, this is just going to be temporary and eventually I'll go and do what I actually want to do. If this all sounds familiar, if this is where you're at right now, it's time to make a change today, right now. The truth is that you can do whatever you want to do with your life. It's your life to live. And what we forget to realize is that it always starts with one step. You pick a way to start and then you just begin. You don't have to know how, you just have to know what. Now take this story with a grain of salt and compare it to your own story, draw your own conclusions from it. But I think it will help to give some perspective on what I mean when I say that you just need to start with something that's remotely similar to something that you're interested in. Throughout my 20s, I had 15 different jobs that I didn't like at all because I was trying to figure my life out. And by the time the last one ended when I was 28, I had started my internship with a photographer. The agreement was he would teach me how to do everything and he wouldn't pay me to learn that stuff. So I still had to make money. And I'm not sure exactly how this came about, but I remember looking on a job board one day and I asked myself this important question. I asked myself, why don't you just do what you want to do? I had always been brought up under the impression that I just had to take what was there and be grateful for that. When I asked myself this question, it changed my perspective and it changed the type of position I was looking for. I found this listing for a live event technician with an AV company. The position description was to go to live event locations, help the team set everything up. So microphones, speakers, soundboards, projectors, and then run all of that equipment while the live event was happening. So I lied on my resume and I had an interview. And at the end of the interview, the manager who was speaking with me said, well, it sounds like you have a lot of experience doing this. If you want the job, you've got it. And so I started that next week and I was making more money than I ever had before. Now, this was a far cry from what I had been doing for employment up until that point. I was working in construction and maintenance and landscaping, again, because I thought that was what I was allowed to do. I didn't know I was allowed to make money doing something that actually made me feel good. And living in that way was forcing me to live in a scarcity mindset. I was living in fear, but asking myself the question, why don't you just do what you like, was the first step towards having an abundance mindset. I knew I couldn't be a professional photographer yet from what my photography mentor was teaching me, but I was well on my way and I was fully committed to learning how to be a photographer, and I was making more money than I ever had doing something that I was at least mostly interested in. Now, before I go on here, it's important to note that I wasn't fully lying on my resume to that AV company. It was more of a white lie. I had played in a band for 5 years, and I used to play with projectors and video stuff in high school. So I did know how to do it, but I didn't have professional on-site experience in the AV industry. I realized that that didn't matter because when it came time to show up and do the work, I did well. And they were impressed with how well I handled myself in the situations that they put me in, and they paid me very well to do it. And as I was doing these gigs with this one company, I started to ask myself another question. I asked myself, how can I do more of this? How can I get more gigs? Because remember, I had only 2 to 3 per week with this one company. So I asked an old friend, Beatty, about the company that he worked for, which was actually a competitor to the company that I had been working with. He was surprised that I was interested in the kind of work that he was doing, and he said, absolutely, you can come and work with us. So I started working with them. Eventually, they got bought out by a bigger company called PSI. I went along with them to this new, bigger company, and I became a valuable employee to them. They started picking up on other things that I was good at. I was very good at driving, and I liked driving. So I became the guy that would drive everything around all over Southern Ontario, and I would help set it up. I would run it during these shows. They even offered me a position on salary because they wanted to absorb me into their business. And this all came from a few white lies on a resume. I just knew that I could handle what that other company was asking of me, and I told them that I could, and then I proved that I could. So now I had these 2 AV jobs, and I was filling 100% of my days with stuff that I liked doing. So I was hanging out with Beatty, I was hanging out with these other AV nerds, and I was around sound equipment and video equipment, which I was interested in. And all the while, in between that, I was also going and hanging out with this photography mentor at his studio and learning from him. Every day was full. It was energizing, and I was improving at a rapid pace. And again, I was making more money as well than I ever had before. And this all happened fast. It happened within a period of 6 months. And that one decision, the one question that I asked myself, why don't you just do something that you actually like? That was the pivot point that pushed me into this new realm of existence. I became an entirely different person within 6 months because of one question and one choice. I took a chance on something I actually wanted. Now, this is the interesting part. This is where it all comes together. COVID started, and the CEO of PSI, Beatty's audio company, called me on the phone. And he said, I have this multi-day event. It's 12 nights. It includes us setting up lights and audio equipment in every municipality in the region and shooting these beams of light up into the sky just to thank the frontline workers. I wasn't sure if this was why he was calling me, but I kind of stopped him and I said I should film it. And he said, exactly, you should film it. So I did. Every night I followed these guys around. It was like a series of mini documentaries. I filmed all night, edited well into the morning, and I sent these people a new video every morning when I was done editing it. That led to everything. My career exploded in the industry that I actually really wanted to be participating in. Remember, the AV thing was something at least kind of in the direction of what I wanted to be doing. Photographer, videographer was the dream. And because I put myself out there, I was now realizing my dream. This guy who I was doing AV work for wanted me to come and film something they were doing. And it was just so exciting to have that happen. Shortly after that, the organization that was collaborating with PSI on that event was called the Canada Games. They became a paying client. They hired me for 2 years straight to shoot a whole bunch of content for them. And I made a lot of money doing that. And I had a lot of fun doing that. PSI also became a paying client. And because of my connections with those two groups of people, I then started to work with this marketing agency called Form and Effect, and another marketing agency called Socially Infused. And then I started to work with the Performing Arts Center. And because of all that experience I was gaining, I was getting really good really fast. I then started just working with construction companies. And now that's all that I do. And my business does very well. It's a 6-figure photo and video marketing business. I have this business now, and I'm living the life that I want to be living because I started small. But anyways, that's enough about me rambling about my own story. Sorry for rambling like that. But I think it is important to paint a clearer picture of exactly what I'm talking about here. It can be so easy to get stuck in analysis paralysis and think that something is hard and that we're not good enough to be able to go down that path or live that life. But you are good enough. You're more than good enough to do whatever you want to do with your life. In fact, if you're not doing what you want to do with your life, it's a massive betrayal to the world. You know, you're naturally gifted at something and you're supposed to be doing that. But don't get caught in this trap of thinking that you need to know all the answers before you start. You don't. Just pick a simple step to take that's at least in the right direction. If you're working in the trades, for example, but you're an extremely creative person and doing that trades work every day just guts you. Like you feel yourself exploding inside because you feel like you have more important work to be doing. Find a way to do that work. Do something similar to that industry. Look at my story there. It kind of blows my mind even just thinking back on it. And I don't even know exactly what was going through my head when I made that choice, because it was so out of character for me. I had always been taught, especially coming from a blue collar family, that you go to work and you work hard and you make money. And I feel like my dad's side of the family was, I guess, really maybe proud of me for being a tradie. I didn't like it. I pretended I did, like I forced myself to. And it was actually around the time when my dad was pretty sick and he was dying. And I think that maybe did shake some sense into me and make me realize that life is short. We're all gonna die at some point. What the hell are you doing about it? Stop waiting. Just do what you want. Live the life that you want. I hope this helps to paint a clear picture of just how possible it is to do what you want with your life. It's not easy. Nothing that is worth doing is easy, but you owe it to yourself and anybody who cares about you to at least start the process of living the life that you want in the place that you want to be living, doing the things that you want to be doing to make money. Your career is important. It's kind of everything, honestly. Because, you know, at the start of this video, I said you spend 50% of your time working, but it's actually so much more often more than that. It's way more than 50%. And if we look at the fallout of the thoughts that you continue to have, even when you're not at work, it's kind of crazy. If you don't like the work you're doing, keep doing it, but start to plan an exit strategy and make moves in the right direction. One step at a time.